Hi, and welcome to Bud's Odd Jobs. This is a site where I give you practical homeowner tips and money-saving ideas. This video today is in regard to oil changes. I saw that little wrench come up on the dash, and so let's go ahead and get started. Let's see if I can help you out. That's up next on Bud's Odd Jobs. One of the issues you're likely to encounter if you do at-home oil changes is the fact that if you buy these standard ramps, they're pretty high profile, and they're often going to hit the spoiler on the front of your car if you try to drive up on them that way. There is a solution. You can buy the ramps that are available for these low-profile cars, or you can simply do what I did. What I did is I cut some 2x6s and added that to the end of the ramp so that I have an incline to start up so that I clear that height on the ramp. Let me give you a demonstration here. So what I did is I basically cut 3 pieces of 2x6. I nailed those together and I staggered them in a stair-step fashion, and I simply drilled a hole in the ramp, and as you can see here, I attached them securely with a bolt that's countersinked into the ramp itself, so that therefore it's nice and secure. Let me show you what it looks like when I drive up on them here. One of the things you want to be sure to do before you go to the store is check the oil fill cap to make sure you have the right oil. I use a synthetic oil, and this particular car has a lot of miles on it, and I think it's due in part to regular oil changes as well as the use of synthetic oil. The other thing you want to make sure is that you have all the necessary tools and supplies before you start your oil change. Some of the things you're going to need is a nice trouble light. Also, of course, the oil and filter. I also use towels to clean up any spills that I might have. If you have a nice oil catch basin like this one here, that really goes a long way to help out. I'll leave a link for it. It's been really nice to have. It's very good at catching the oil as it drains from the oil drain tube. You can remove this particular cap here, and then it collects in the bottom, and then you seal that up. Open the vent valve here and open this nozzle to drain it into a recycle container. So it's very effective that way. I also like this wrench set. Actually, my son got me this. It's a Cobalt wrench set. It's a really nice, you need an 11/16 socket for the job. These sockets just pop right in, and they stay really nice, and it's very a durable, very heavy wrench. I've used it quite a bit. You're also going to need a funnel. I use mechanics gloves to kind of protect my hands. You need a good filter wrench, of course. And you may be wondering what's in this jar. There's some clay type cat litter. I use that to clean up any oil spills that I might have, and it's very effective, and I'll demonstrate that as we get later on in the video here. Also, one final thing, it's nice to have a good maintenance crawler so that you can easily slide underneath the vehicle. This particular crawler I made myself. It's a homemade job. I saved casters from an old desk that we used to have. And then also we had an old weight bench, and I used the parts of the old weight bench, just screwed them onto a piece of wood with a little handle, and that's come in real handy. It's a real good crawler for using under the vehicle. With that, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, before you start draining the oil, the first thing you want to do is remove this fill cap. And that way it'll allow all the oil to safely drain from the pan. Now, before you position yourself under the car, you want to do a second check and make sure that that parking brake is set so that you're safe to roll under the car. I've done that, and so let's get to it. Okay, I've got my wrench in place and got my pan positioned under the plug, so let's go ahead and get cranking. Okay, I've got the tension off of that plug, so we'll just go ahead and remove it. And you can see it draining into the catch pan. Really does a nice job. One of the things you want to be sure to do after you remove the oil plug is check the bottom of the oil plug to make sure that there's no metal filings on the plug, which could suggest that you have some breakdown in your engine, either with the piston or the rings or the cylinders themselves. This looks pretty good, so let's move on to the next step. One of the things I do after I remove the plug is put a little piece of towel in the end of the oil drain opening to keep any dribbles from going off onto the floor. Once we've done that, then we're ready to remove the filler. Now I've already went ahead and loosened this with the wrench, so I'm going to use this, my hand, to hand turn it out. And once I got that, we're ready to start putting the oil tube, the new filter on, and put the oil drain tube back in, and go ahead and fill her back up. Okay, I went ahead and removed my filter. You can see the filter sitting there. They make a place in this catch basin to set the filter with the bottom side down so it can drain all the excess oil into the oil catch pan and then safely inside. The other thing you want to make sure you do is use some of that used oil and just coat the seal on the new filter before installing it. So I'm going to go ahead and install that filter now. All right. Once you've gone ahead and put the oil drain plug back in, your filter is secure, you can go ahead and pull away your drain pan. First thing you want to do is go ahead and stick the plug back in the drain hole. And you also want to make sure you cap the vent cap on here as well. And after your oil filter has drained sufficiently, you can just simply take that out and discard that. And then it's just a matter of making sure you clean the excess oil out of the reservoir here, and it's ready then to pour into the recycle container that you're going to use. What I typically do is, after I put the new oil in, I typically empty a container and I just fill that container back up and mark it used oil. And then if I get enough of those containers, I just take them off to the local recycler. Once you've cleaned the catch basin part of the oil catch basin, you can stand that up on end. You see it's all plugged up and ready to pour the recycled oil. Really nice tool to have for oil changes. So I highly recommend this. And as I mentioned, I'll leave a link below in case you want to check it out. Okay, now that you replaced your oil drain plug, you got your filter in place, it's time to go ahead and fill up the car. Now you want to check your manufacturer's specification for how much oil to put in. Mine takes nearly the full 5 quarts, but not quite. You want to use your dipstick to check after the oil had sufficient time to drain. You also, once you get enough oil in it, you want to start up to make sure that the oil circulates into the filter and throughout the motor so that you're getting an accurate check. So let's go ahead and fill her up. So I'm not sure how well you can see this, but this is a 5-quart container. I put in 4 quarts. I have 1 quart left. That means 4 quarts are in the motor. I'm going to start it up briefly, just enough to circulate the oil, and then I'll do my first check to see where I am on the dipstick. After you get close to the required amount of oil in the motor, and before you do your final checks, you want to look under the car to make sure that there's no leaks around the oil filter and around the drain tube. After you've verified that, then cap it up just long enough to start it up and pull it off the ramps. You want to do this to make sure you're on a nice level surface before you do the final top off while checking the oil level. Okay, now we're down off the ramps on a level surface. I did another check on the stick, as you can see, I've got oil shown on the stick, but it's not in the safe zone. So we need to add a little more and recheck again. Okay, now I've checked and refilled. I did that about 3 times. And as you can see now, the oil is clearly between the 2 dots there in the safe range. So I think we're good to go. Now what we want to do is cap her up and then start the motor up and just check underneath again a second time just to make sure there's no leaks. Okay, I got her started up. I'm going to let the engine warm up a little bit and let the oil warm up, and then I'll do a final check underneath to make sure there's no leaks. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and try to reset the service reminder. On a Honda product, you simply press and hold. You'll see it start flashing. And if I remember correctly, I think you just release and push again. Always have to remind myself how to do this. There it is. It did reset. 100% oil life. So you're good to go. Check with the motor running and warmed up. We're going to take a look underneath. Everything looks good under there. No leaks. So it looks like we're good to go. Now let's do the cleanup phase here. As happens invariably, I did spill some oil on the floor. What you want to do is take a towel and try to get most of the excess oil up. Once you've done that, you simply take your clay mix and cover the spill well with the clay mix. Put a generous amount on there, and then you simply want to take your foot and kind of grind that into the floor. I'll come back after I sweep this up and show you what it looks like. Okay, there you see the floor after I've let the clay soak in and sweep it up. Ground it in a little bit with my feet. Looks as good as new. So it's a real effective way of cleaning up those nasty oil spills. Next, let's go ahead and drain out our catch basin so that we can recycle this oil. Okay, so what I usually do is I bring this container outside, remove the cap and also the drain plug. Always put a little bit of cardboard down there just in case we have any spillage. And you basically just empty this contents into the container and we're good to go. Okay, I've got my tool cleanup done. I marked my container old oil, and I'll put that down with the other recyclables. And we're just about done here. As I wrap things up today, literally, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Hopefully you found it informative. If you did, give it a thumbs up. And also don't forget to subscribe. There's a lot more information, good videos coming. If you want to get a taste of what I plan to provide, go ahead and look at my intro video. That'll give you a summary of some of the up and coming topics. Thanks for watching Odd Jobs.